are live. Awesome. All right, gang. Here we are. Welcome back to the Soapbox. Diving on in here. Hope everyone's doing well. There's a lot going on in the world as per usual, but I think hopefully this podcast gives a little breath of just conversation, thought starters. I think the biggest thing that I appreciate in people is diversity in thought and thinking and challengers, but also respectful and humble individuals that might not, that don't think that their way of thinking or their thought process is the only way or the best way. It's just a way. And I hope that this podcast, gets that across. And, I always get worried that since it's just me, the concept of this podcast is me just talking, that it's just said that like these are, these aren't codes or things like that. These are just literally things that I think about, talk about, converse with my friends and people I work with. So I hope that you find some value with this stuff. But I do appreciate questions or thoughts or like, hey, have you thought about this? Because it always makes me think, and it usually gives me a good idea to kind of chat it up on here. So with that said, I wanted to dive in and obviously spend a lot of time on my online programming, the HAM plan. And, with that opportunity, I get a lot of opportunity to think about ways to add value to people, right? We have, we're closing in on 100 affiliates around the world and hundreds and hundreds of individual athletes. And, I always think to myself, programming is one thing, but our goal is to add value. So, and, where we can really probably add the most value, because of the nature of the beast is to our affiliates because they're coaches and then they can add more value. But then even to our individual athletes, giving them some sort of thought process or goals. And, so I started to think about, this concept of results, right? So I think that in any program, in anything in life, we want results. We want to get better. We want to know that what we're doing is effective. Okay, so things need to be measurable, observable, and repeatable. That's important. So with that, we need to, all right, well, in CrossFit, it's like, well, we have benchmarks, right? It's like, are your times going down in those benchmarks? Are you lifting more weight? You can track nutrition metrics, things like that, right? Where you can, oh, my body fat percentage is going down or whatever it might be. Now, you have that, but it's tough because not everyone is going to be able to have these big wins all the time. And even still, like sometimes you want to know that what you're doing is, what am I doing today? Is it getting better? And I know like this notion of like, we need to trust the process and delayed gratification and all that stuff. But also I do think it's important to like, it's nice to know that what you're doing is successful. I mean, it's the same thing from a management and leadership perspective as telling your team they're doing a good job, telling your team that, like reassuring them, even if like, it's just small little things that aren't, big grandiose projects and everyone in the world isn't seeing this stuff. So I do think that that's important to understand. And, and then the next step is, all right, well, how do we highlight that and make it tangible? Because in the world of human performance and fitness, it's got to be something you can do. It can't be like how you feel is a byproduct of what you can do. So like, well, how do you feel today? And so, well, I feel good because I accomplished something. I did something. And what is that something? And at some point, yes, in the very beginning, it's just like literally I woke up today and I worked out. Awesome. Or I woke up today and I made my bed. Awesome. Like you have that linear progression. But now we need to be able to push with that. So it's the concept that this is, I have no idea. This probably exists in a book that's way too long that could be distilled down to like, 50 pages. But it's like find the daily wins. And I'm going to equate this to fitness. So what I mean by that is when I say find the daily wins, there's an opportunity, and I'm going to stick specifically to like fitness and CrossFit and the coaching journey, but I do think this can be applied to any profession, any walk of life, specifically where you're dealing with people and opportunity for improvement, okay? So find the daily win. What does that mean? Well, we have an opportunity every day when someone walks in the CrossFit gym, walks in any gym, to have them do something they've never done in their life before. Let that sink in. So we have the opportunity to have them do something they've never done before. How do we find it, celebrate it, and progress from that? That's so important, okay? So, that's your goal as a coach, as a mentor, as a leader, is finding the daily wins. Let's take a workout, for example. Right? Let me take a look at a workout here, just as an example. Okay, boom. Okay. Yesterday's workout on the hand plan is called Biscuit Joiner. 30 thrusters, heavy, 135 or 95, male or female, and then 1 mile run. So, what does that look like, right? So, we start with the opportunity in the class. Well, start small. Maybe you have a new athlete in your gym and they've never touched a barbell before. You've always given them dumbbells, and you let them warm up with a barbell. And you're like, hey, have you ever moved a barbell before? No. Boom. There's a small win. There's a daily win. Stop the class. Look around. Hey guys, look. For the first time, we were able to get that bar into a semi-rack position and get into a front squat, whatever it might be, right? Today's a really good example of like, all right, you know what? Maybe we have that athlete run that full mile and it take a really long time, but they run their first mile. How cool would that be? Right? And, so maybe you have them do some very simple version of a thruster and be like, listen, I'm just going to have you do, 30 thrusters with PVC pipe, and then you're going to go on that run. And they run that mile, and it takes them 12 minutes. But they run their first mile ever, or whatever, right? And so like you take that example, or, you give them an opportunity, maybe it's another athlete. It's like, you know what, they've never moved an RX weight in a workout. So you make them go really, really light, really, really low reps, but they can move those for a couple singles. You let them take it out of a rack, not off the floor, something along those lines. These are things that you can do to find the small wins. And also within your warm-ups and skill-specific stuff, right? Where what are you doing in your general warm-up to find some fun small wins, right? Where it can be skill-based, it can be conditioning-based, it can be equipment-based. What I mean by that is, as we get older as adults, and I think this is really, really important because, I think we have a huge issue in the world that as we get older, we start to think that we can't do certain things physically. We're never challenged physically and what we can do. And so then it just becomes this type of thing. I was like, I can't do that. As opposed to, let's teach our athletes some new skills of how to climb things. Like maybe you do some rope climb stuff or some pegboard stuff or whatever, hanging from the pull-up bar, bear crawls. These are things that no one's going to do without you telling them to do it. And it's easy because sometimes in your mind, you're like, oh, like, this is just the warm-up. You don't even think twice about it. But then pull back, ask yourself, is this something that my athlete has never done before? You really have to ask yourself, have they done this? Ask them. Get to know these athletes. Finding the daily win is an opportunity for you. And so in a CrossFit gym, you need to set your class, your lesson plan up. So again, we deliver 2-page lesson plans for our gyms and our coaches. But then really the next step is, all right, well, maybe you take that and you write it out yourself, and then you find opportunities in that general warm-up, that specific warm-up. And every day is going to be a little different, right? But you find those opportunities to give the daily wins, okay? And those opportunities might not always, and it also depends on who's in class. So, it depends on who shows up, who doesn't show up. It might be something completely different, right? So like, on a workout like yesterday, maybe no one's going to be able to do the workout as prescribed. So maybe you're able to switch things up a little bit, change up the instruction, change up the lesson plan, so on and so forth. So these are the things that we can start to think about finding the daily win. And the reason why I really like this is because I think far too often we think more is better, okay? And this is outside the realm of CrossFit as well. Like, all right, well, I got to do more to get better. And and you know what? Yes, you're right. More is better from that perspective. But more what? It's not just, so let's just put it this way. Driving to drive, right? or driving with a purpose. What I mean by that is if you want to become a better driver, you might need to then work on certain skills in driving, right? As opposed to just driving around. Same thing with fitness, same thing with your profession, same thing with finances. You need to have, it's just not like, oh, like, you know, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and the more that I do it, I'm going to get better. That's not necessarily the case, right? I mean, if that were the case, we would all be getting better at everything as we get older, and that's not happening. Certainly when it comes to human movement. So setting yourself up, one, as a person, like what is the daily win? Okay, start small. You know, and I write some articles for the Reebok blog, and it's really interesting because you know when I write those articles, I try to think about people that I don't normally speak to, right? So like you know I'm speaking to now, you know I'm assuming is a consistent audience, and you know so I think that there's a level of understanding and discussion that we can have, but oftentimes you know I'm definitely not reaching everyone, but there's a lot of individuals that just struggle with things that, you know, I might not struggle with or you might not struggle with. And it might simply just be like, hey, like I need you to, you know, that daily win today is like, I need to do something. I need to move, but we're not going to work out. So maybe it's just, you know, finding an opportunity to do like 15 sit-ups or doing a plank or, you know, doing some air squats or stretching or doing some meditation, whatever it is, right? And that can obviously be a daily win. And I think this is important because life is a progression. We're used to progressions. It just doesn't happen overnight. School is a good example. You know, you go from daycare to preschool to kindergarten and all the way up to masters if you want to go through that, right? Like you don't just jump right into college. You just don't jump right into your master's degree. You don't just jump right into your field. And I think that we need to take that same progressive approach with our lives, but we do it in fitness. If we do it correctly, you come in, we teach how to air squat with no weight, it's slow and controlled. Then we add PVC pipe, we add complexity, we add weight, we add speed. And it happens, the novice's curse is to teach a snatch before the overhead squat, before the air squat. And so again, it's the novice's curse to expect, our athletes that are going to, come 3 to 5 times a week, they're going to come in, they're going to hit it as hard as they can, they're going to weigh and measure their food, blah, 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 blah. That's just not going to happen. It might down the line, but it also might not as well, right? And that's okay. It's like you might go to college, you might not, and that's 100% okay. But what we have to do is facilitate that journey, and where are those offshoots, right? So, as we understand this concept of the daily win, what are some takeaways that we can have here? Okay, the small wins within skills, celebrating these and allowing them to be important. It's not everyone gets a trophy type of deal. It's not it's not like, oh, everyone makes a team. No, because by the nature of this, you're going to fail. Okay, let that sink in for a second. That there will be failure in pursuit of new things. And it's okay. Failure is inevitable and unavoidable in the process of adaptation, okay? And I think we need to prepare our athletes for that. They might not reach their goals, but we should help them reach the SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, time-bound, those types of things. And, as we go through it, these realistic goals might simply be, I want to hang from the pull-up bar for 30 seconds. As someone gets in the gym, help them set the goals. People come in, they say, I want to look good naked, I want to lose body, if I want to trim this or tone this or whatever it might be. Great. Let that be that driving force to get them in the gym that will never keep you there. You need performance metrics. Why? Because we as humans are unbelievably powerful at making excuses and finding ways out. Okay, we look for the path of least resistance, and sometimes it's for our own detriment. And again, it's just human nature, so we can help and we can support. But we are also addicted to results and success. Okay, now it's also equally as addicting to get stuck in the self-fulfilling failure prophecy, right? That is an addictive feeling of I'm not going to get it, I'm not going to do this. So you just start circling. So how do you get out of that, or how do you stay out of that? If you're winning every day, it feels great. It feels good to be a winner. It's like when you're on top, it's great. Now there's also the stress of how do I keep it going? As opposed to these big, grandiose, big, hairy, audacious goals, let's just come up with simple things, okay? And I think the simple one is, okay, what am I going to do? And this has to come from you as coaches. It has to be, you're here, nice work. Monday morning, I was like, and at my morning classes, I was just telling them, I was like, hey guys, you've done more in this hour from 6 to 7 a.m. and most people are not even awake yet. Let that sink in. Like, empower them, okay? Empower those individuals, okay? That's a really powerful thing. Empower people for making the choices because then they feel special. But also then there's this notion of we have to keep it going. There's this level of personal responsibility. Find the small wins. Find the daily win. Even at home, like, just think about like when you're at home and like what did I do today? Like there are times where I do things around the house just to feel like I've completed something tangible. Mow the lawn, clean up, vacuum, whatever it is. I feel successful. And depending on your line of work, what you do, depending on the day, there are days where you just kind of look up and you're like, you have nothing to grab. You need something to grab. And that's the daily win, right? To sit back and look back at your day, like, I did that. And we need to give our athletes that. We need to give them that opportunity every single day. So pulling it back to fitness and CrossFit, if we think about this, like, so a lot of programmers and gyms out there really struggle with programming too much in an hour, strength and metcon or multiple parts. And it's not that that's really bad, but unfortunately, usually what happens is something suffers, right? Coaching, your ability to teach, see, and correct, your ability to get people better. And then the argument is, well, this is what my people want, or this is what they're used to. Well, that's all your fault, right? But also, when you think about it, deeply think about it, most people don't need more. They need better. And in turn, they will get more, right? So if you want your athletes to move better, then they need to do more reps. If they need to do more reps, you need to lower the weight, and you need to be able to teach, see, and correct on those. So we're actually speaking the same language, and then there's your opportunity to find that daily win. Now, that also doesn't mean you need to belabor it and be unbelievably boring. You can be absolutely engaging, and you can crush them. You can, your higher end advanced athletes, you can absolutely, and this is where you have to be a better coach. And this is something we're passionate about, I'm passionate about, but this is why we program, is that we believe we need to empower coaches to have the opportunity to make people better. And we need to get our coaches better to coach these athletes. That's really important. If you want to deliver a better product, you need to be better, not just deliver more, okay? It's like one of those things like, do you want to be a buffet or do you want to be a really good restaurant with good portions? That's right. Like, it's cheap and easy to go to a buffet and you can have all the food you want. That's what I think about with these gyms that offer all this crap. You're a buffet, and there's a time and a place for that. And honestly, once in a while, we like it. And there's nothing wrong with that. So as a programmer, you should be aware of that as a gym owner. But if that's all you offer, what do you become? You become the golden corral of fitness, right? As opposed to, now we also don't want to become like this, like on the other end of the spectrum, right? The overeducated, practitioner. It's like, we only do one-on-ones. Group training's not good, and you're going to get very little portions because we're so worried about your imbalances or blah 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 blah. It's like going to like a 10-course restaurant, and it's like your portion size of meat is like a quarter, and you get a little garnish of like basil, and you're like, what the heck? And you're starving, and it costs $400, right? And you're like, what is this? How about we split the difference and find the middle? It's like, just go to a good old steakhouse, right? You get a good piece of meat, you get some good sides, you get some greens, you get some starches, you get a nice salad, boom. And that's really what your gym should be, a good steakhouse. Because it's cooked well, there's care, there's good service, it's not over portions, it's not just thrown at you, and it's not also under portioned, and it's not putting you in a corner. It puts you right where you need to be. And it's also, you can get the small filet, you can get that massive, like that 64 ounce for two type of meal. It's $80, but most people try to eat it for one. But these are the things that we want to think about, truly think about. But you know what? There's also, and this is it, Golden Corrals are out there and successful. So are these French restaurants. They could be any restaurants. I'm just considering a French restaurant as a stereotype. I apologize. And then there's steakhouses. So there's room for them all, but they're not the same restaurant. They're not called the same thing, and they don't deliver the same product, and the consumer knows it. So you should know it if you're delivering that. If you want to find the daily win, set yourself up for success, probably want to be a steakhouse. That's what I got for you. I really like that analogy. It just came to me. 20 minutes, the soapbox. We'll see you.